everybody, this is Diana from So Very Crafty, and today we are here to make this terrific little long drawer organizer that you can put your sewing items, pens, scissors, whatever you like will fit into these little drawer organizers, and you can put them in your drawers. Super simple to make. They don't take very long. There's a little bit of quilting involved in this, but otherwise this is a super simple little drawer organizer that you can make, and they come out nice and square like this. Very nice. Make them out of whatever fabrics you like, and they're a fun and functional little project for the beginner sewist to make. And if you've never quilted before, it's a super simple little quilting project as well. I hope you enjoy this project today. It is a fun one, and if you do, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, ding that bell so that you get notifications of future So Very Crafty videos in your inbox. And if you want more sewing and crafting tutorials, head over to the website at www.soverycrafty.com for loads and loads of more, probably more difficult projects than we see here on the website, on the YouTube channel. But head over there and take a look, and maybe there's something there for you. But for today, we're going to make these little drawer organizers. So, what do we need? We're going to need some outer fabric, some lining fabric, a little bit of quilt batting, and some Pellon SF 101. Now the SF 101 is optional. It's completely up to you. I thought it added a little bit more structure to my drawer organizer, so I went ahead and added it. But you don't have to if you don't want to. We're going to start out and we're going to take our lining. I've used this yellow for my lining for my project today, and we're going to place it on our batting. Now our measurements for our outer piece and our lining piece are 7 inches by 13 inches. And your batting piece can just be a scrap that's a little bit bigger than your actual lining piece. And we're going to set that right on there, just like that. And it can be, like I said, a scrap piece of batting. It doesn't need to be perfect. I just used a little scrap that I had on hand. Now, you can quilt this any way you like. If you just want to do all over pattern, that's fine. For me today, and for the prototype that I did on this, I did a little diamond shaped quilting. So I'm going to take my heat erasable pen here, and I'm going to start at one corner, and I'm going to measure about 6 inches. And I'm just going to make a dot. I'm going to take my ruler, and I'm going to go from one corner to that dot and draw a line. Just like that. And like I said, this pen is heat erasable, so it should come off with the iron fairly simply. And then I'm going to quilt some lines that are 3/4 of an inch wide from each line. And it's just going to be a diagonal all the way down until I'm finished. I'm not going to draw the lines, but I will show you once we're over at the sewing machine how we're going to go about doing this. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is I have to do diagonal shape. So I'm going to measure from this corner another 6 inches and place a dot and draw an X. And that'll get me started on my diagonal pattern. But I have a little guide on my sewing machine that's going to help me with these 3/4 inch lines so I don't have to draw them all out. So let's head over to the sewing machine and let's start to stitch diagonal lines all the way across our lining fabric and our batting so that we can get this quilted up really quickly and we can move on to our next steps. Here we are at the sewing machine, and you're going to notice that I have this little guide here that I've attached to my sewing machine. And most sewing machines have this, and there's a little hole here at the back of my presser foot that this guide goes through, and you can move this back and forth to determine the length of your lines. Now I've measured this out, and right about here is the 3/4 inch mark for my lines. The first thing that I'm going to do is I am going to stitch my first line. But now I want to make sure that this line is 3/4 of an inch from my next line, and I'm going to use this guide to guide it right along this line that I've just stitched so that I can stitch another line. That way I know that all of my lines are going to be the same distance apart. Now you can make your lines wider or narrower, it's up to you, but I thought the 3/4 inch would be best for this project. And that's how we're going to stitch all of the lines going both directions on this project. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish up and stitching these lines 3/4 inch wide, and we'll move on to our next step. Okay, so now I have quilted my lining piece, and now it's time to cut off the excess. So I'm just going to take my rotary cutter and cut off the excess batting. Now we're going to start to create the inner part of our project here. We're going to fold our fabric piece right sides together, and we are going to stitch the short ends of our drawer organizer using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I'm just going to run over to the sewing machine and take care of that. Now I have what looks like kind of a boat, and now it's time to box our corners. So I'm going to take our boat, I'm going to fold in the ends, and you will see that there is the fold line. I'm just going to line it up so that the seam is in the center. And I'm going to take my ruler and I want to measure it down until it measures 2.5 inches across, which is right about there. I'm going to take my pen and I'm just going to draw a line right across here. And I'm going to do the same for the other side. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to head over to the sewing machine and I'm just going to stitch right across these lines that I have drawn through all the layers. And that's what's going to box my corners for me. So let me run over to the sewing machine and let's just stitch a straight line right on the lines that I've just drawn. So now I have boxed my corners. I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to cut off this excess here on the box so that we can get rid of the bulk. And I'm going to turn my lining right sides out. And you can see now that we have the inner part of our drawer organizer. Now I'm going to do almost exactly the same thing with our outer fabric. I'm going to fuse the SF101, and again this is optional for you, to the wrong side of the outer fabric. And you can just follow the manufacturer's instructions. Use a hot iron and fuse this interfacing to the outer fabric. So I'm just going to do that right now. Now we are going to make the outer part of our project the same way that we did the inner part, but we're not going to do any quilting on this. We are going to fold the outer piece long ways, stitch up the short ends, and box our corners. So let's just take care of that and then we'll move on to our next step. I have boxed my corners. I'm going to snip off the ends. And now I have the outer part of my project. But I'm not going to turn this right sides out. Instead, I'm going to place my outer, or my lining, into my outer drawer organizer. I'm going to clip it all around the top. Make sure that these end seams line up, which they do. And we are going to stitch all the way around the top, but we are going to leave an opening in the top of our project right about here so that we can turn this right sides out. So let's head over to the sewing machine and let's just stitch all the way around, leaving an opening here to turn right sides out. So here we are back at the sewing machine, and I am just going to stitch on the inside of my project here using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And now we've stitched all the way around, but we've left this opening in the top where we're going to turn this project right sides out. Now we're back at the workstation. We're going to reach in. We're going to turn this project right sides out. And you can see our drawer organizer is coming together nicely. We need to close up our opening. We're just going to put our lining inside of our outer organizer, and I'm just going to place some clips all the way around the top, because we are going to top stitch this to give it a nice finished look and to enclose that opening that we use to turn our project right sides out. So we're just going to fold these in where the seam would be. And clip that. So we're going to head back over to the sewing machine, and we are going to do a couple of things. We are going to top stitch all the way around the top in the same way that we did when we attached the lining to the outer bag. The next thing that we're going to do to give our project this boxy shape is we are going to take our corners and we are just going to top stitch right along each corner, and that will give this a boxy shape. Now this is kind of an optional thing, but I find that it doesn't really have a boxy shape unless you do that. So let's head over to the sewing machine and let's take care of that. Okay, here we are at the sewing machine again, and I am just going to top stitch all the way around my top part of my project. Right now I'm enclosing the opening. Now we can leave our project like this, but the sides tend to fall off. So I'm going to take our corners and I'm just going to top stitch each corner a little bit along the edge. And we've finished our project. So let's go over to the workstation and I'll show you what it looks like. So there we go. There we have our long drawer organizer. Now we have two. That's all there is to this super simple little project. And as I said, we can put just about anything in here. Pens, rotary cutter, scissors, all kinds of things. Put them in your drawer, make a lot of them. They don't take long to make. That's it. This is a super simple, very functional, fun little project to make. I hope you enjoyed this project today. It's an easy one. Any beginner can do this. Even the quilting part, not a problem. If you enjoyed this project, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, ding that bell for notifications, and head over to the website at www.sewverycrafty.com and find more sewing and crafting tutorials and even some beginner quilting, because I'm a beginner quilter too. And you can learn as I learn how to do beginner quilting projects like this one. So this one was just a simple diamond shape quilting project, but there are some more beginner quilting projects on the website, so you can give those a try. And otherwise, I will see you all next time. Bye.